I see people are joining on this Monday morning. I'm Susan Demas, the executive editor of Lincoln Square, and with me is founding editor Lisa Senecal. Thank you for
Good
joining
morning.
us.
Oh, I'm always very happy to be here. Good morning, everybody.
Great. Well, we definitely have a lot to talk about in terms of what's on Lincoln Square this week. We have our special parade and protest, Trump's March Toward Fascism special. That will be tomorrow at 5 o'clock when strategy session usually is. And this will be open to everyone, not just paid subscribers. We'll talk more about that in a bit, but there was a ton of news over the weekend, so I just wanted to get into Trump taking the extraordinary step to deploy the National Guard in California after there were so many protests against ICE raids there. And that's something that has not happened in 60 years. So what was your take on everything, Lisa?
This Trump has wanted to do since his first administration, this deep authoritarian desire that he has to be able to call out the military against U.S. citizens. We know he wanted to be able to shoot protesters in the legs the last time he was president. So it sounds like it might even be escalating from using the National Guard to now calling on, oh my God,
It was
sorry,
the
early
Marine.
here, um, wanting to bring in the military.
Yeah,
So the idea that we're going to have U.S. Marines in the streets of
right,
LA, God knows what other Democratic city he's going to find an excuse to be able to deploy the military into, because they certainly don't think this is going to be the first and last location that he does this. Um, this is not how you de-escalate. And they know that. There's no reason in the world that National Guard needs to be on the streets of LA. These were not unusually violent or even violent in most cases protests. I mean, the police are not being attacked.
right.
I don't know, maybe don't roll militarized troops and vehicles through the streets if you don't want a reaction. But the truth is, right, they want the reaction. They want to be able to go into these communities that lead black and brown and incite a violent reaction, so then they can justify using violence against American citizens and against people living in the US.
Right. And it seems to me that it is not a coincidence that this took place a week before Trump's big celebration to himself, allegedly to celebrate the military. But we know what this is about. This is about crowning him the ruler of not just America, the free world, and having that military style parade that, you see in so many dictatorships. And so it seems
Yeah,
to
it's real.
me,
Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
it seems to me with all the protests that are planned across the country that we'll definitely see this sort of militarized reaction in other cities.
Yeah. And I do not discourage anyone from going out and participating in peaceful protests. Uh, if you are able and you're close to a place where you expect these protests are going to be taking place, do take part in them. Just make sure there are so excuse me, so many resources now that will explain to you what your legal rights and responsibilities as a protester are, and if you end up being detained, what your rights are, and the degree to which you need to cooperate with questioning or searches. So I encourage people. You can find many attorneys now. I see these videos on Instagram all the time. But make sure you understand your rights as a citizen and protest peacefully, because we don't want to play into the hands of this guy. I was listening, Susan, this morning to the BBC, and to hear the types of interviews happening now with U.S. officials from foreign correspondents that we have traditionally heard either our correspondents or foreign correspondents in other countries asking militarized governments why they think they're justified in taking violent action against their citizens and people living in their countries. And it's horrifying, but it is not shocking. And we can't be shocked by these things. I don't mean that we should just become immune to it and not react, but this is all 100% predictable, just like the military parade is. Something he wanted in his first, everything Donald Trump wanted in his first term and couldn't get it, we have to expect he intends to get it, and he's going to do what he needs to unless there is enough pushback. He's going to get it. So that's on
Right.
us.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to look at the resources that the ACLU has put out.
Yep.
They are excellent in letting you know what your rights are, and what you should and should not do if you are detained. Here in Michigan, after Trump was elected, there were a couple of longtime lawyers, who did a PSA, and they actually look like your grandparents, and they came on the screen and they're like, if you get detained by the cops, what do you do? Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And it's great. I'll try and find the video and post it in our summary of this because it's really a must watch. But really, be aware because you always want to be on your guard. It's our constitutional right to protest, but we know that there are a lot of people who are associated with Trump, the oath keepers, the 3%ers, people who are violent, and they want to take advantage of this time to stir things up. And
Yeah.
it's up to us to protest nonviolently and to know what the signs are when things might go wrong.
Right.
So just
Situational awareness at these
right.
protests is going to be really important. Try not to find yourself in the center of
Mhm.
a protest crowd. The
Know
perimeters
your
are always
your
the best
exit
to be.
points. Know your
Yes.
exit points. Be aware of everything. Go with a friend. Know exactly how to get back to your car.
Yeah, and sadly, remove the biometrics from your phone. Don't use finger scans anymore to open your phone. Remove your eye scan. There is no reason to make your phones easier to access without you willingly turning over your password. And phones are getting seized and searched. And especially if you're coordinating with groups of folks who are protesting, um, just don't make it easy.
Yeah. And, it was very disturbing if you've seen the video of those reporters who were shot with rubber bullets over the weekend. And I mean, by looking at the video, it looked like they were being aimed at. This was not an accident. And these are people who feel that they can act with impunity. So, um, you
And too
know,
often they're right.
right. And so, I believe that the reporters were from Australia, and this is the sort of thing you might expect if you were, in North Korea covering something. But now, this is a reality in America. Um, I I can't help but think that this escalation also had a lot to do with the fact that Trump backed down from one of his big, shows of force by deporting Kilmar Abrego Garcia to El Salvador without a trial. He is coming back to the U.S. He will be facing new charges. As that is the way it is supposed to work. You're not supposed to be disappeared. If you are facing criminal charges, you have the right to face your accuser, the state, and if he's found guilty, that's the way it is supposed to work. Not that, Donald Trump gets to decide who gets to live in America and who doesn't at the drop of a hat because he wants to make examples of people he finds to be unsympathetic. But, as we've seen with tariffs, Trump chickened out again. And the thing that he can't stand is looking weak. And so, you send out the National Guard to a blue state like California. I was actually at a town hall for Michigan U.S. Senator Alyssa Slotkin on Friday night. And, she is not, a far left firebrand, but, she was pointing out that, this was a huge black eye for Trump. He chickened out, and the crowd really loved it. So I do think that people are beginning to see some of the chinks in Trump's armor, and Democrats are a bit emboldened now to talk about it.
And the polling has been showing for a while now, carrying out all the things that he was saying he was going to do during the campaign, and he was saying he was going to do the things he's doing. These aren't shocking revelations, but unfortunately for a lot of communities, uh, didn't understand the between the lines meaning of he was going to go to the United States, and that turned out to is undocumented. He has decided as a criminal. Um, Abrego Garcia was in the United States legally, and obviously we know the story. I don't know about these charges that are now being brought. There were no charges being brought previously, and now suddenly there is this massive human smuggling case that they're trying to build against him now that we have this embarrassing situation for the Trump administration. So maybe there's something there. Maybe there isn't anything there. In any event, due process is guaranteed for everyone in the United States. I don't want us to lose track of the fact, wonderful that he is going to be back in the United States, that he's going to, I hope, receive all the protections that someone on our soil deserves, and that the justice, whatever that may be, is going to end up being met out. However, there are still hundreds of people who have been disappeared from the United States who didn't receive due process. And we don't know their names. They're not being returned. With Kilmar is that folks can be brought back from CCOT, right? This was originally the story from the Salvadoran president was, oh, how could I possibly return someone to the United States once they've been put in my prison? I mean, I'd be breaking laws to do that, while sitting next to the US president, who clearly could have could have told him, "Yes, please, we'll arrange military transport and we will bring these people back." Trump said he had no way of getting them back. Obviously, that was a lie. It was always an obvious lie, but now it's demonstrable because we have one of these people back in the United into El Salvador. So what's the argument now for everyone not being brought back and receiving due process? So I hope the courts see that Trump backing down on this one should be a chain reaction, and that he needs to back down on these others, and he needs to bring these people back and give them the due process that our Constitution affords them.
Right. And, the protests that were going on in Los Angeles, this was not over Trump trying to deport the worst of the worst. These were people who were looking for work at Home Depot. If you are a violent criminal, a gang mastermind, you're not out looking for work at Home Depot. And
Right.
so, it just really undercuts all of these arguments that Trump has made to justify these draconian measures. Um, and, last week he also had a huge kerfuffle with Elon Musk, who, the two of them were attached at the hip. Now all of a sudden they're fighting over the MAGA murder budget. And Elon was firing off tweets right and left. But I see that he did back down with some pressure, and he deleted the tweet accusing Trump of being in the Epstein files. So, Lisa, what do you expect now? Was this just kind of for show? Is there a genuine fight going on? Is Elon going to be brought to heel like so many other people have?
I don't think it was a show. I there could have been a lot of drugs involved at the time. You just kind of never know when personality altering chemicals could be involved when it comes to this guy. So um, clearly, the reason being given by was upset about the subsidies for electric cars going away was complete and utter bullshit. That was not it. This was always going to happen. It was discussed from early on in the Trump presidency that those were going to go away. And I remember hearing stories at the time that this was actually going to be beneficial to Musk because he had the most established electric car brand in the country, and it was the smaller brands, the not smaller brands, but the car companies that were trying to break into the electric car market, that those subsidies were much more, or rebates were much more important to getting people to adopt non-Tesla brands. So it was actually going to work out well for Musk. Now, I don't know by the time it actually happened and he had destroyed the Tesla brand, whether or not that was still the situation. But I don't know. I think Musk lighting himself on fire so that now Tesla is toxic, both for people on the left and on the right. Not sure that was part of his plan. I just don't know that either one of these two men, when especially whether it is a brand that they think they've established or it truly is such deep seated masculine insecurity that they cannot help themselves but emotionally overreact and make poor decisions for themselves, their businesses, the country. I seem to recall women being described as overly emotional, and that the levers of power should not be put in our hands because we just can't behave rationally. And you have these two megalomaniacs who are clearly mentally disturbed, potentially very intentionally chemically imbalanced, um, who are behaving like children, but have an inordinate amount of power in our society. I don't know if it's very hard for me to believe that either one of these men is capable of truly backing down. I don't think the RIF ever. Um, I don't know what Musk would have to do to get back into the good graces of Donald Trump. I'm not sure money is enough at this point, especially since Trump doesn't have another, at least legally, does not have another presidential campaign in front of him. So I don't know. I guess we're going to have to keep because this is always one of those, we have to be worried. It's one of those situations where we're putting a lot of attention on this. And what are we being distracted from that is going on in the Trump administration, that we really have to make sure our eye is on that ball.
Mhm. Right, and, we've seen, what a boon the presidency has been to Donald Trump. I mean, he's getting luxury jets from Qatar, who knows what else we're not aware of, and so the need to have, a billionaire like Musk on his side definitely seems to have waned. Um and,
Yep.
to your point about, them being quite emotional, I did enjoy AOC's, evaluation of the situation when she said, "Oh, the girls are fighting,"
Right.
because
And I,
that's
I think
exactly what it is.
I think people took that the wrong way,
Mm.
that she was playing on the irony of how women have been called overly
Right.
emotional. She was not trying to compare them to the way girls act. So I think some interpretations of that got a little bit misconstrued. Um, I
It's important, I think, for us to, have a little sense of humor
Yes.
in these dark times.
Yeah.
And, she, clearly was not meaning offense. I mean, God knows how many times people have insulted her for being a young woman who doesn't know anything and comment on her looks and her dancing. So,
Yeah.
consider the source.
Yeah. I do worry about how deeply intertwined Musk and his business are with key national security, for not just the United States, but we deeply embedded the Starlink system is in Ukraine, and that it is an essential communication device. The man just has far too much, whether it's our space system or now our, going into our US airports and getting far too involved in systems there. We have way over dependence on a, a lot of things that he has sole discretion to make decisions about. He also has a deep dependence on the government
Right.
because these contracts are essential to keep him afloat. And he's a paper multi billionaire, but a lot of that is tied up in SpaceX and to a lesser degree in Tesla, and a lot of that money, Trump does have a lot of power over the guy, though we're damn dependent on. We don't have much of a US government space program at this point without outside contractors, and that's a pretty dangerous spot. And maybe we can learn a lesson out of this, that allowing massive corporations to have control. We've got Palantir
Mhm.
involved through Doge in a terrifying amount of our government information systems now.
Right.
So perhaps, we need to go back to developing more of this through the US government, and maybe depending a little bit less on unstable billionaires whose good graces, to some degree, we need to stay in. It's a dangerous place to be.
Absolutely. Well, this week on Lincoln Square, we will be following all of these stories. And tomorrow we'll have a special edition of Anchor Watch with Bobby Jones. He's going to be talking about Trump's upcoming parade. And he has such a unique perspective, being a longtime military veteran. And he can tell us. How all of this is perceived by the troops on the ground. I know he has said that parades are about their least favorite thing to do. But, also I'm sure he will be getting into, this prospect of active military being deployed domestically and what that means, and how we are really crossing a huge line there. So please, tune in. That's at noon every week. Anchor Watch with Bobby Jones. And then in the evening, we have our parade special. Rick Jones, I'm sorry, Rick Wilson, Stuart Stevens, Joe Trippi will be there. And we're going to have lots of special guests, Jay Quo, Olivia Troy, and many others will be joining us to talk
Gonna be
about
crazy.
the larger issues with this military parade, the history, and also how we can fight back.
That's going to be an amazing show. I'm really looking forward to watching that one tomorrow night.
Yeah, so please tune in. It's a good break from the nonstop coverage. We'll be on cable news, hyping up this parade, showing the tanks rolling in, all of those feats of strength that Trump wants, those images. But, who better than, our team here at Lincoln Square to tell you what's really going on, and what we can do to fight back against just this huge display of ego, and um, to also make sure that we know what is coming next, because after this we have a long hot summer ahead of us. And it really does seem like the Trump administration is looking for a confrontation.
Yeah, and as we were saying at the beginning, it's not just going to be in LA. So folks who live in pretty much, if you were in a place in the United States that there were protests after the murder of George Floyd, um, expect that the places who had folks coming out the most, Democratic cities, Democratic states, they're going to be targeting those places and attempting to make an example. So prepare in advance for what might be coming your way. Plan protests. Write your members of Congress. They can be speaking out in advance of these things happening. It doesn't just have to be a reaction to what's happening as Newsom is dealing with right now. So, yeah, just expect it and plan accordingly. It's hurricane season in as far as this stuff with Trump goes. So just
It's hurricane season for democracy.
yeah, it is. It's terrifying, but we can prepare for it and we can fight back. And I have I don't want to end with doom and gloom. We have been able to throw up tremendous roadblocks. And part of what we've been talking about today is that Trump has backed down on things. And we do see that someone who we were told there was no way to get back in the United States is now going to be afforded due process. And that's not because Trump had a change of heart. That's because there was pressure, and that pressure makes a difference. And that comes from all of you. And it comes from organizations like Lincoln Square, which I hope folks here are supporting with paid subscriptions if you're able to. It is really important to support the good work of not just Lincoln Square, but other organizations and individuals who are putting their full-time efforts into trying to fight back against this administration and to shore up our democracy and make sure that we're going to be able to keep this intact and better so that we can hand this on to our kids.
Right.
We owe this to them.
And we're going to have a lot of really great guests this week on our shows. We cover so many topics. I'm really looking forward to talking with Andrew Watkins tomorrow. I think she's in the chat. There's nobody. There's nobody better to talk to about now that Project 2025 is here, what that means, what they're doing. Our one of our favorite guests, Simon Rosenberg, who writes the Hopium Chronicles, he'll be on with Stuart Stevens. That will be a great discussion about what the messaging needs to be at this time, who is being effective in fighting back, what we can do. And I'm really looking forward on Thursday to talking with Tara McGowan. She's the founder of Courier Media. And I can assure you, we will have a very spirited discussion about the media, about the growth of independent media, and also where corporate media is falling short.
Sarah is a force of nature.
She is.
If you all haven't, she's usually behind the scenes, and you don't see her on camera. I think enough, but she is brilliant, and she is phenomenally articulate and passionate. So, and just deeply well informed, and has built an amazing organization at Courier Newsroom. So yeah, it's completely donor supported at Courier. So check out Courier as well. And yeah, definitely tune in when Susan talks with Tara, because she really is something.
Yeah. Great. So yeah, we're hoping to give you just different perspectives on the news than you get anywhere else, and also especially the tools to fight back, because it is very frustrating to wake up every day and to see what kind of madness Trump has in store for us all. But we have a great community here at Lincoln Square. We have so many friends and allies, and we count on you for our great discussion in the chats. You are the core of what we do. And so we just so appreciate you being here, and we'll really look forward to seeing the chat tomorrow night with our parade special, because I imagine that's going to get very feisty.
Yeah, I imagine so. It's always good. Things get spicy on that show. So I hope everybody will tune in, and thank you for being here this morning. And thank
Yeah,
you,
thank
Susan,
you.
for having me back. I really appreciate the opportunity to continue having these conversations. It's really deeply meaningful to me, and my heart forever is with Lincoln Square and the amazing work that everybody's doing there.
It's such a great way to start the week. So thank you for being here. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.